So just briefly, Matt, what were you talking about when you mentioned the bohemian contemporary culture?
It was this notion that nowadays, instead of having, you know, strict bourgeois and bohemian categories, you have sort of a bleed between the two. You have what is sort of rather tweely called Bobo, which is bohemian bourgeois or bourgeois bohemian, and I would say that that's what most of our generation are. We're here, we're in a stairwell, we're drinking free beer, we're at this thing, we're talking about books, and it's that class, it's like where we are located. You don't get it in regional centres, you don't get it in rural places. And even just the suburbs of Sydney, like, I mean, it's... Oh yeah, it's very inner city. In Sydney it's inner west, in somewhere like Melbourne it's Carlton, Brunswick. Yeah. It's this group of young people. I don't think it would be unfair to say that they are predominantly, or to a large extent, artists of some description, whether that's theatre makers, writers, filmmakers, musicians, whatever. They don't necessarily have to have integrity. They're just a group of people who like to do, like the lifestyle of Bohemia and pay for it by being completely bourgeois the rest of the time. It's not just lifestyle though, I think it's a part of it, like what bankrolls them, and whether it's parents or whether it is like some very stellar working in a bank job. Yeah, I'm a writer who used to work in a bank. I think people compromise. I don't know anyone who is, you know, purely living for the art, and probably if I did meet them I wouldn't be able to relate to them very well. I think that originally people do want some sort of authenticity. Initially they do, and I think that I think that people that even with the wankiness of the people that we might know in some ways, I think they do want a life that is, you know, meaningful and thoughtful, and that they are questioning why they're here, whereas maybe not our parents, but certainly our grandparents probably were much more like, we just had to survive, we just had to have a job. Yeah. You get married because, you know, you don't want to be lonely, so you marry the first person who kind of is okay. I mean, I think that I think that is a valid call. I think that people, again, of our class, geographical situation, etc., are far more likely to question the situation that they're in. But then, to some extent, they're also more than happy to accept certain parts of it and I'm going to do it by compromising or selling out, or however you want to phrase it rhetorically, and working for whoever, whatever, doing something that is not necessarily what I want to do. And I think that is, to some extent, the beginning of situations like the one you find in Revolutionary Road. Is that, you know, I think that if you start even selling the smallest part, and I'm a hypocrite because I've done it. The moment you start selling even the smallest part of your integrity, it's much easier to sell larger and larger bits. But is part of that just growing up and like learning that you can't, like, no, it's lovely to put it that way. It's lovely to explain it that way. Well, everyone's ideals at 18. I mean, I would say to some extent I preferred the ideals I had when I was 18. Regardless of whether or not I've become more realistic, I think I've certainly become more cynical, and I think I've sold out to some extent. And the difference between being a painter or a writer of artistic work, and that's pretending that, you know, gallery owners and editors don't exist, is that there's always someone that you have to... You know, there's no such thing as pure artistic expression, really. Except for AustralianPatrol, that's something of pure artistic expression. Naturally, it's found us on the stairwell. Independent media is a different beast altogether, isn't it? So, do you consider that the, you know, intensity and frequency of your orgasms is directly related to the income of your partner? It's like, excuse me, fuck off. And I read the data that story was based on, and it was pure bullshit. Like, it was completely fabricated, you know, it was data manipulation, basically. And I said, you know, go out and get a photo of a woman who says she's fat. And so there was no way I was going to ask anyone that, and I completely freaked out, and in the end what I did is I took the article that the story had come from, and I took it to a bunch of women who were drinking champagne and being pretty, and said, this is bullshit, isn't it? But don't you think that working at a paper can lead to other exciting opportunities? No. Why not? Because you're not in charge.